Markets panic over inflation, but what would Solomon say?
Prices keep climbing, markets tremble, and fear spreads like wildfire. But what if someone had already seen all of this before it happened? What if a man who once ruled the richest empire on earth could speak to us now? What would King Solomon say about inflation, uncertainty, and the future of your wealth? Before we find out, let's look around us. Let's understand the storm we're standing in. You feel it when you fill your tank. You see it plain as day on grocery shelves. You hear it in the whispers of worried voices and in every flashing headline. The world is shaking. From New York to Sao Paulo, from farmland to factory floor, fear is no longer an emotion. It has become the global currency. And now, all eyes turn to the United States, as it sharpens its economic sword, preparing to strike with a new wave of tariffs hitting key trade partners like Brazil. But this isn't just about taxes or spreadsheets. This is about survival. A move like this could ignite more than a trade war. It could tip the world into a recession spiral we may not recover from so easily. 50% barriers. 100% consequences. That's the price tag attached to these new tariffs. Brazil, a country already fighting its own inflation battles, could face devastating aftershocks. Agribusiness, manufacturing, technology, industries that thrive on open trade now face walls instead of bridges, blockades instead of flow. The cost? Jobs lost by the thousands. Prices soaring with no ceiling. And a domino effect that could choke not just Brazil, but the very US economy that lit the match. And as if that weren't enough, strange ideas emerge like the abolition of PIX, a fast, secure payment system beloved by Brazilians. Imagine a foreign leader trying to dictate not just trade, but how you pay for your groceries, how you protect your family from theft, how you survive your daily commute. PIX isn't just a system, it's a shield and someone wants to take it away. But here's the truth. Markets don't move by logic, they move by emotion. And in the interests of those who govern, and when emotion takes the wheel, logic is the first to be thrown overboard. Investors panic, capital flees, prices rise, and fear multiplies faster than any virus. The herd runs, not because it knows the destination, but because no one wants to be the last one standing. But what if I told you that long before Wall Street existed, one man understood this pattern better than anyone alive today? He didn't trade in stocks, he traded in wisdom. He watched kings rise and fall, economies flourish and collapse. He wrote these words thousands of years ago, and they still ring true today. The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. Proverbs 22:3. So, if fear is rising and your future feels unstable, stop and ask yourself, what would Solomon say right now if he were watching this moment unfold? What would Solomon say about inflation and crisis? If Solomon were here today, if he could look at our headlines, our empty shelves, our restless hands, he wouldn't raise his voice, he wouldn't panic. He would pause. He would look deeper, past the numbers, past the charts, past the noise. And he would remind us, inflation is not your enemy. Fear is. A man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. Proverbs 25:28. Because when the storm hits, it's not the economy that decides your fate, it's your foundation. Solomon knew something we've forgotten. Panic doesn't protect you, wisdom does. The true nature of value. In a time when coins were silver and gold flowed through the streets of Jerusalem, Solomon still said, wisdom is better than gold. Why? Because wealth is not what you hold, it's how you hold yourself. A man with gold, but no wisdom will lose it. A man with wisdom, but no gold, will find it. Inflation changes prices. Wisdom changes perspective. Solomon would say, you're watching your bank account, but are you watching your decisions? The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. Proverbs 21:5. When inflation rises, most people react. But Solomon would tell you to respond. Reacting is emotional. Responding is intentional. Solomon's response to a world in panic. He'd ask, are you diversifying your efforts? Are you building with discipline? Are you gathering little by little, or gambling everything on a moment? Whoever gathers money little by little makes it grow. Proverbs 13:11. He wouldn't speak about markets, he'd speak about mindset. Because while others are watching the inflation rate, Solomon would be watching your habits. The wisdom of a king doesn't panic when the winds shift. It adjusts the sails. Building during a storm. In his time, Solomon built the temple of the Lord not in a season of peace, but in a time of political pressure, with laborers from foreign lands, resources from distant mountains, and alliances that made nations uneasy. But he built it anyway, stone by stone, line by line, not because the economy was stable, but because the vision was. By wisdom a house is built, and through understanding it is established. Proverbs 24:3. Today, you're being told to wait, to hold back, to shrink your dreams until the world calms down. But Solomon would ask, what are you building in the midst of the storm? When others panic, the wise prepare. While others hoard, the wise prepare. While others flee, the wise invest. While others fear the future, the wise plant seeds for it. Because the wise know, crisis doesn't cancel purpose, it clarifies it. Go to the ant, you sluggard. Consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest. Proverbs 6:6-8. Solomon would point to the ant, small, quiet, diligent, not waiting for the world to approve its actions, just preparing for what's next. And that is how you survive inflation, not with panic, not with power, but with proactive wisdom. But Solomon didn't stop at words. He lived what he taught. And his fortune? It wasn't built in calm seas. It was built in wisdom, through chaos. So how exactly did he do it? How did Solomon build the greatest fortune in human history, and what can we learn from his steps? How Solomon built wealth in unstable times, principles in action. Solomon didn't build his empire during perfect conditions. In fact, many of the forces surrounding him were anything but stable. He inherited a throne shadowed by blood. His father, King David, had fought endless wars. The kingdom was tired, the people were divided, the political pressure was rising. And Solomon? He was young, inexperienced, unproven. Yet within one generation, Solomon transformed a fragile nation into one of the most prosperous kingdoms in history. How? He followed principles, not feelings, wisdom, not reaction, and strategy, not fear. Let's uncover 5 key wealth principles Solomon applied during uncertain times. 1. He asked for wisdom first, not riches. Before building anything physical, Solomon built his internal foundation. When God offered him anything, literally anything, he didn't ask for gold, or power, or fame. He asked for a discerning heart. Give your servant wisdom to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. 1 Kings 3:9. That one decision changed everything, because wisdom is the only investment that never loses value, even when the world collapses. Most people pray for wealth. Solomon prayed to know what to do with it. Wealth Principle 1. Seek wisdom before opportunity. Wisdom multiplies everything it touches. 2. He built systems, not just storehouses. Solomon didn't hoard, he structured. He created national infrastructure, organized labor, managed natural resources, formed strategic alliances, established fair taxation, developed port cities and naval fleets. In short, Solomon didn't chase wealth. He created ecosystems where wealth could grow. Through skillful and godly wisdom, a house is built, and by understanding, it is established. Proverbs 24:3. Most people panic and pull back in times of uncertainty. Solomon built deeper foundations. Wealth Principle 2. Don't just collect money. Build systems that make it flow. 3. He diversified before it was trendy. Solomon understood risk long before economists invented the term. He didn't put all his trust in one city, one crop, one coin. He expanded trade from Africa to Asia, partnered with neighboring kings, received tributes, imported timber, exported wisdom. And in the book of Ecclesiastes, he left the blueprint. Invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. Ecclesiastes 11:2. He wasn't just spreading wealth, he was spreading risk. Wealth Principle 3. Diversify intentionally. What survives storms is what spread across soil. 4. He valued steady growth over sudden gains. Solomon wasn't interested in overnight success. He knew that easy come often means easy go. He taught, wealth built too quickly often disappears just as fast. Wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. Proverbs 13:11. In a world that wants more now, Solomon reminds us, slow growth is not weak. It's strong, it's sustainable. It's the kind of wealth that doesn't evaporate when the market shifts. Wealth Principle 4. Don't rush riches. Layer them like stone, one wise decision at a time. 5. He invested in people and wisdom, not just gold. Solomon left behind more than treasure chambers. He left behind Proverbs, writings that still guide minds, nations, and souls. He taught the poor, corrected kings, and empowered the next generation. His fortune was massive, but his legacy was eternal. In the multitude of counselors there is safety. Proverbs 11:14. Wealth Principle 5. Invest in wisdom and people, because gold fades, but truth and trust endure. Wisdom that outlives recessions. Solomon built his wealth during instability, not in a vacuum, but in a world of war, betrayal, hunger, and fear. Yet through it all, he built with purpose. He invested with vision. He reigned with clarity. Because he wasn't chasing money, he was walking with wisdom. But even Solomon, the wisest man in history, faced temptation, and in time, he drifted from the very principles he taught. So, what happens when the richest man alive forgets what made him rich? In the next chapter, we'll discover how even kings fall and what it takes to rise again. The Fall of Solomon. When wisdom is forgotten, he built palaces, he shaped empires, he wrote proverbs that echoed through eternity. But even Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, was not immune to drift. Because wisdom is not a possession, it's a posture. And the moment you stop bowing to it, you begin falling away from it. Solomon didn't lose everything in a single day. No king ever does. The fall came slowly, quietly, compromise by compromise, choice by choice. It began with peace, but it ended with pride. The warning signs. God had warned him, do not marry foreign wives, do not multiply horses, do not accumulate gold for yourself, do not turn your heart away. The king must not acquire many wives, or his heart will be led astray. Deuteronomy 17:17. But Solomon did all of it. He took over 700 wives and 300 concubines, many from nations that worshipped other gods. And to please them, he built altars, he lit incense, he bowed to idols. The king who once built the temple of the Lord now knelt before statues of stone, and with every step away from truth, his kingdom lost a piece of its soul. As Solomon grew old, his wives turned his heart after other gods, and his heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God. 1 Kings 11:4. When wisdom becomes a memory. Wisdom doesn't scream when you leave it, it whispers, then it waits. And as Solomon drifted, his decisions changed, his clarity blurred, his kingdom began to fracture. He taxed his people harshly, labored them without rest, built monuments not to purpose, but to ego. Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Proverbs 16:18. The very man who wrote those words forgot them. The voices that once guided him were drowned by the applause of foreign queens and the silence of his own conscience. The cost of compromise. And so, the Lord gave him what he feared most, the promise that his kingdom would be torn, not in his lifetime, but in his son's. A warning, a consequence, a prophecy fulfilled. Solomon had everything but peace with God. He had built Israel's golden age, but in the end, it would not survive untouched. Because legacy is not measured by what you build, but by what remains when you're gone. The Lord became angry with Solomon because his heart had turned away. Therefore, the Lord said, I will surely tear the kingdom away from you. 1 Kings 11:9-11, the beginning of repentance. But even in the fall, there was a flicker of light. In his final years, Solomon wrote again, not as a king, but as a man who had seen both glory and emptiness, who had tasted pleasure and found it bitter, who had chased meaning and found it only in surrender. Meaningless, meaningless, everything is meaningless. Ecclesiastes 1:2. He realized, you can have everything, but if you lose your center, you lose it all. Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Ecclesiastes 12:13. Solomon's fall was not final. His words still guide, His warnings still protect. His legacy still whispers. But what if we could go back? What if we could take the wisdom without repeating the downfall? In the next chapter, we'll uncover the 7 timeless principles from Solomon's life. Principles that can protect your mind, guide your finances, and anchor your soul, even in the middle of chaos. The 7 principles of lasting wealth from Solomon's life. He was the richest man who ever lived. A king whose wisdom attracted rulers from across continents. A builder of temples, empires, and proverbs. But Solomon's true treasure, it wasn't in his vaults. It was in his vision. Because Solomon didn't just leave us gold. He left us principles, timeless, tested, transformational. 7 truths that not only built a fortune, but can build a life worth living. Principle 1. Choose wisdom over wealth. Wisdom is more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with her. Proverbs 8:11. Solomon had the chance to ask for anything, but he asked for understanding. Why? Because wisdom multiplies everything else. Gold without wisdom disappears. But wisdom creates gold, again and again. Application. Before chasing results, seek reason. Before chasing money, seek meaning. Principle 2. Build slowly, multiply. Surely wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. Proverbs 13:11. Solomon understood something Wall Street often forgets. Fast is fragile, steady is unstoppable. He didn't build the temple overnight, he laid foundation upon foundation. So must you. Application. Forget the shortcut, honor the process. Let wealth become a rhythm, not a race. Principle 3. Diversify before you desperately need it. Give portions to 7, yes to 8, for you do not know what disaster may come upon the earth. Ecclesiastes 11:2. Long before modern economics, Solomon taught risk management. He didn't trust in one stream, he built 7, sometimes 8. Because storms don't ask permission. Application. Never depend on one job, one client, one currency. Spread your seeds. Some will survive the drought. Principle 4. Respect timing and seasons. There is a time for everything, a time to plant and a time to uproot. Ecclesiastes 3:1-2. Solomon was a master of timing. He understood when to build and when to rest, when to speak and when to listen, when to give and when to gather. You don't just need action, you need awareness. Application. What worked last year may not work now. Be present. Discern the season. Principle 5. Avoid debt-driven lifestyles. The borrower is slave to the lender. Proverbs 22:7. Solomon understood a hidden trap. Freedom ends where debt begins. Not all loans are evil, but all unchecked desires are. He didn't just avoid financial slavery, he warned others to stay far from its gates. Application. Don't buy today what will rob you tomorrow. Live light, walk free. Principle 6. Seek counsel before you commit. Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. Proverbs 15:22. No one rules alone, not even a king. Solomon didn't fear advice, he feared blindness. He surrounded himself with scribes, elders, and counselors because even wisdom knows its limits. Application. Before the deal, ask questions. Before the decision, seek perspective. Principle 7. Honor God first, and all else will follow. Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing. Proverbs 3:9-10. Narrator. Solomon knew all wealth flows from one source, and if you honor the source, the stream never runs dry. He didn't give out of fear, he gave out of reverence. Application. Before you build your portfolio, build your altar. Before you chase profit, honor the provider. Closing reflections. 7 principles, not formulas, not trends, but truths, written in ink and stone. Solomon's wealth didn't come from luck. It came from order, from values, from vision. The blessing of the Lord brings wealth, without painful toil for it. Proverbs 10:22. You're not here just to make money, you're here to build legacy. Wealth that doesn't vanish when markets crash. Because it was never rooted in markets, but in meaning. But what if Solomon's wisdom could speak to this very moment, to inflation, to global panic, to economic fear? In the next chapter, We bring it full circle as we ask, what would Solomon say about today's financial crisis? And how can you walk through it without losing your peace? What would Solomon say in today's financial crisis? The world is trembling, inflation is rising, markets are breaking, confidence is collapsing. Every headline is a new alarm. Every scroll brings more fear. We're told to panic, to pull back, to protect what's ours before it's all gone. But what if we paused? What if just for a moment we silenced the noise, closed the screens, and listened? Not to politicians, not to economists, but to a king who had seen it all, Solomon. The eternal voice in a modern storm. He ruled over gold-lined halls, but he understood poverty of the soul. He built vast wealth, but warned of the emptiness it brings when wisdom is ignored. And if he could speak today, he wouldn't give you stock tips. He'd give you truth. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Proverbs 9:10. Solomon would begin, not with the economy, but with your center. He'd ask, what are you anchored to? What's guiding your decisions? Is it fear or is it wisdom? Lessons for the modern crisis. Solomon would look at inflation and say, don't hoard, don't hurry, be diligent. He'd see the markets panic and whisper, let the fool rush, the wise remain steady. The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and suffer for it. Proverbs 22:3. He'd remind us that recessions come and go, but character stays. That money made fast disappears faster, but money made with patience builds legacy. A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. Proverbs 13:22. And when everyone is screaming, buy, sell, panic, Solomon would say, plant, build, wait, give, the true foundation in a fragile world. The world is built on paper, printed, predicted, and panic-driven. But Solomon teaches us to build on principle, on truth, on wisdom. Because when everything shakes, it is the quiet, consistent builder who survives. By wisdom, a house is built, and through understanding, it is established. Proverbs 24:3. So what would Solomon say? In a time when wealth evaporates, when the ground beneath us feels unstable, when even kings feel afraid, he would say this, guard your heart, seek understanding, and do not lean on your own understanding. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. Proverbs 3:5-6. Solomon's final word to a world in crisis. The crisis is real, but so is your calling. The fear is loud, but wisdom still speaks, if you will listen. Solomon's voice echoes not through banks, but through hearts, through households, through honest labor, through quiet trust. Better a little with the fear of the Lord than great wealth with turmoil. Proverbs 15:16. Your wealth is not what's in your hand, it's what's in your spirit, in your choices, in your convictions. And so now, when the world panics, you stand in peace. When others chase noise, you walk in silence. When others crumble, you build, because you carry the wisdom of a king, the wisdom of the king. Final word proverb for the journey. The blessing of the Lord brings wealth without painful toil for it. Proverbs 10:22. If these words reached your heart, if you're ready to stop reacting and start building like Solomon, then walk with us. Subscribe to Wisdom of the King and let timeless truth guide you in a restless world.